Hi, my name is Eric Rodsa. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And this is my auto bio. I'm originally from the Washington metropolitan area, Washington, D.C. And in that area, we don't really have a car scene. I think maybe because the cost of living was so much, there weren't really any type of mom and pop shops that you can go work on your car, a lot of traffic. I want to say the thing that really got me into the car scene was video games, Need for Speed Underground 2, Fast and the Furious movies. I think when I was in middle school, I dreamt about having a Toyota Celica or a Honda Prelude. I thought, that was going to be my first car. Ironically, my dad had other plans. We had a death in the family. His sisters died in a Mazda Miata, so he was actually very against having any type of sedan. So me driving a stick-shift car was out of the question. Me being a rebellious teenager, that's what I was going to do. When I finally had enough money, I remember I decided I was going to get a Honda Accord, a 2004 Honda Accord V6. I thought it was everything. Little did I know though that it was pretty slow, and everything was beating me in any type of side-by-side race, and that's when I decided I needed to save more money. This is probably where my trend of cars started happening. I ended up getting a Honda Civic Si, decided I wanted to go turbo, went to a Mazda Speed 3. Then I went to, at the time, what was my dream car, a Lancer Evolution. I got a Lancer Evolution 8. I was married at that point. My wife was not a fan of the hatch, so she surprised me. She's like, I'd like to buy you a Lancer Evolution. And I was like, I thought she was kidding, but long and behold, I ended up getting 2005 Evo 8. I remember spending a lot of money on that car. It was great though. I had a lot of fun, and I was gonna be a first-time father, and I got a cash offer for it. And at that time, I thought, I was either gonna spend 8 to 10 grand on it, or I could possibly make 8 to 10 grand on it if I sold it. I decided that it's gonna be the responsible parent and go ahead and sell it. Boy, did I regret that. Because now they're impossible to find. It was, to this day, it's still one of my favorite cars I've ever driven. I had my first child, ended up saving up some money. My wife gave me the A-OK to go ahead and buy another vehicle. The only caveat was it needed to be new. And let's just say I wasn't the biggest fan of a Evo 10. So I went to go and test drove a 2016 Subaru STI, and I fell in love with it. Probably one of the biggest gripes I had with the Evo was that the interior was completely outdated. A lot of plastic buttons. I wasn't a fan of it. And this kind of just hit all the check marks I needed. It's peace of mind knowing the entire history of the vehicle. I know who's driven it, where it's been. I don't trust many people with it, so it's nice to know that I put probably every quality piece I could on it, and know that that hasn't been abused. So at first I was a little hesitant to start this whole modding scene again because I knew what kind of hole it can put a person in, experience with the Evo, but I decided just to start off light, maybe just some aesthetics. I had a warranty. I didn't really want to jump right into it. But if there's one thing I learned about the Evo was that a tune really did matter. I somehow convinced my wife to go ahead and let me get some performance parts. And I think I actually got it tuned at 2,000 miles. I went ahead and got a stage 2 tune, got a nameless downpipe, and just a full turbo back exhaust. Went ahead and tuned it. I went on a deployment, saved up some money, and came back, and I just went from, I guess you could say, stage 2 to a straight up flex fuel tune. Stage 3.5 if you want. Being out here in the Southwest, we have access to a bunch of flex fuel stations, so they were readily available in my area, and I decided why not, because I knew the benefits of it. Not only that, then it was just a spiral effect. I wanted to do things I never did at the Evo. I wanted to get legit wheels, new suspension. I wanted a bigger turbo. Finally, I started buying pieces here and there, and I decided to start an Instagram. I was a little hesitant at first because I only had my personal Instagram. I didn't really dive into a second one. Little by little, the photographs got better, support got better. I got sponsorship requests left and right, and this was early on. There weren't many, I guess, show type of cars for this chassis yet, and there were a dime a dozen pretty much. There's so many of them out there, so it was really hard to kind of share my story and, I guess, share the car's worth, because how am I going to separate myself from the rest of the crowd pretty much? And it took some time, but it was always for my personal benefit. I didn't have to go to car shows. I wasn't doing it for fame or anything like that. It was more so, hey, there were people interested in my build and my journey, so I thought, why not? I guess it's kind of like a diary. Let's go ahead and put up some photos on there, answer some questions when I can. And one sponsor turned to two turned to four turned to like 10. And before I knew it, it wasn't just like little partial sponsorships, it turned into like heavily discounted sponsorships or full sponsorships. Some of them were smaller companies that ended up helping me build my profile to end up getting some bigger ones, like Password JDM, Airflow Dynamics helped me out in the beginning. Now I have Airlift Performance. One of my earliest sponsors was the Mod Garage, great part distributor company based out of Washington State. The owner, Brian, was one of the first, I guess, supporters of my build, even before the Mod Garage was created. He believed in the build. I believed in him as a business owner, and we somehow were able to help create a brand and a culture that just exploded out in Washington. To this day, we're still great friends, and he still supports me. I still support him. It's just a great journey. It's been a great story so far. One nice thing about my sponsors that I like is that I've actually gotten to know a bunch of the owners. For instance, like Mitch over at Melee Design Firm. I was one of the very first sponsors that he had to promote his lightweight battery mounts. And now, before it was just a small lightweight Odyssey, it was a PC680, and now we're talking, he's got probably over a dozen batteries that he has custom mounts for. Then I have Seth over at Dress Up Bolts, and he exploded on the scene. Custom titanium bolts. He has color schemes, dozens of color schemes, let's put it that way. And I was one of the first ones to be able to test out some of his red titanium bolts. I collabed with him and gave him ideas to help pretty much make a bolt kit for some of the more popular pieces of equipment that people buy for this chassis. For instance, the APR Performance GTC 300 wing. I measured every single bolt, sent it over to him, had him mock it up. Now he has a bolt kit for that. The VARS rear diffuser, same thing. I took every bolt off, measured it, sent it to him, let him know what he needed, and we were able to mock that up. Now he's got a kit for that. So, and I was able to start early on with these companies. They appreciated my input. Now they're they're flourishing, and I'm very proud to be, able to help them early on and see where they've come to now. That's what the culture's about. So it's been a pleasure. This isn't my daily anymore. When I first got the vehicle, it was my daily, and I spent every second I could, and I would take that car out and drive it. It was such a blast. Like, I enjoy driving a manual vehicle. But as I've gotten older, as I've become more of a family man, I have a daily now. And sometimes I wonder, at some point, should I sell this car? And every time I jump in that seat, it reminds me every day why I shouldn't. It's just a sense of joy that I can't really describe. I've done a majority of the work myself on this car. I know pretty much any and if there are any problems with the car, and when I drive it, it's just almost like a self-satisfaction, almost self-gratification that I was the one that helped this car get to where it's at. It's just an exhilarating feeling. I know when I drive it, it's just a rush of adrenaline, and I just know that I will never be able to put this type of detail or effort into any other car, mainly because it's taken me 5 years to get to this point. And I had a lot more spare time then that I don't have now. Therefore, anytime I get to drive it, or anytime I take it to a show and I get compliments, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from the JDM community. I've had people from the European community and the American muscle community. They've come up and said, "We love what you've done with your car. I've never even seen a Subaru like this, but I can tell that you've put a lot of attention to detail and blood, sweat, and tears into it." And I take that to heart because it's hot in Arizona to be working on a car year round. So I do appreciate it. Honestly, anything's possible. Set small goals. Start turning those wrenches early on. You may not be able to get to your dream car or the car that you want right away, especially if you're younger, but there will always be options out there. And have a good steady income, so that way you can, in case something does break, you can fix it when the time comes. And that anything's possible. There may have to be some sacrifices down the way, but if you really want something, and obviously if it's legal and you have the means, then go ahead and shoot for it. There are going to be a lot of people either in or outside your corner, and you have to know your limits. Me being a family man, like I said, I tried to make that decision early on, and I realized it's not just me, but my family has to back me on a lot of this stuff as well. So it's been a pleasure, because when I have to spend time with the car fixing it or something like that, they afford me that time. Or when I tell them, hey, something broke, I need to pay for this, they're supportive about it. And I think that to me was the biggest reason why I'm okay with keeping the car as long as I can. For a kid that is just getting their first car, doesn't really have steady income, and their parents are willing to help them out, honestly, you have to do your homework. YouTube is a great resource now. Reviews are great. Google is great. And understand what you're getting yourself into. Every platform is different. Understand common things that may break, common expenses that could come up when you're making that decision. Give yourself some room in case something does happen. If you have a budget, maybe look for a car that is slightly under that budget, so you have room in case something does happen, some expenses. Outside of that, everyone wishes they could have, the most expensive car or their dream car when they're 16, but reality is we just can't make that much money yet. So enjoy the journey, and your time will come if you do things right. So I started off with doing a turbo back, getting a tune. Aesthetically, try to change out badges, add in rain guards, mud flaps, the typical, I guess you could say, Subie boy thing. And progressively, I just try to hit things in strides. Like if I wanted to focus on engine parts, I did that in a wave. Then I did some interior stuff. Then I did some exterior stuff. I try to keep it balanced, because if I try to do everything at one time, that bill was ridiculous. So I slowly switched over to flex fuel. Then I started suspension stuff. I got Fortunato 500s for coilovers with Swift springs for about 3 years, until I got the sponsorship with airlift performance. You have to do a lot of research because wheel fitment is critical, and it changes depending on if you have coilovers or air suspension. So I ran a certain setup and spec for when I had coilovers, and luckily when I was getting ready to pull the trigger on new wheels, I had the sponsorship with Airlift Performance, and I was able to go a little bit more aggressive and get one of my top favorite wheels of all time. And it really changed the appearance of the car. I was obsessed with carbon fiber, as you can tell. Password JDM really started my addiction with it. Then it just started in the engine bay, went to the hood, then it went slowly into the interior, carbon fiber steering wheel, the whole center console. I even have a carbon fiber glove box now. Pretty ridiculous. One thing I can say is that a lot of my interior is custom made. And then after that, it's just been little things, attention to detail. At some point, I felt like I needed to take it to the next level, and that's when I started buying VARS parts, and that's a slippery slope. They are quite expensive. However, their kits are second to none. I mean, they really are the most appealing kit for our chassis, at least in my opinion. It's just been a blast, everything I've done with the car. Under the hood, I still have a stock block. It's got about 30,000 miles on the car. It's got a Cobb 20G, 1000cc injectors. I've got an AOS on there. It's got equal length headers. I know some of my purists will be mad that I still get the Subie rumble at lower RPMs, but I was looking for longevity. On a Mustang dyno, it put down about 380 wheel horsepower, 410 wheel torque. I am limited by my injectors. I still need fuel rails to really pull out the potential of the turbo. I went ETS front mount intercooler. I have a CSF Racing radiator with the oil cooler combo. Outside of that, I mean, it's pretty much, I think the only thing that's left at stock on there, I still have to delete the air pumps and swap out an intake manifold. The pandemic, honestly, it almost gave me a sigh of relief. I know that sounds a little ironic, but since there weren't any car shows, I was able to kind of take a step back and really plan out how I wanted the build to go, and I was able to save up some money, not really just spending it on the car. It was a nice break, if you want to say. I am missing shows, so I am excited to see how 2021 shapes out. But overall, it was just a nice break overall for me mentally, because I do work full time. I do go to school, and I am a full-time father, so it is nice to have a break, at least from one of the things I enjoy doing. So one of the nice things about living out here in the Phoenix metropolitan area is the cost of living is great, and the car scene in general, for what I've seen, is actually pretty diverse. One of the nice things that we have here that maybe isn't readily available in California is, our laws aren't as strict. So we can get away with a little bit more. So you see a lot more builds that are higher horsepower builds. You can really dump your money into the engine and make it look real nice and not have to worry about stricter emissions. I wouldn't say it's as popular as the California scene, but we do have a significantly good one out here, and you do see builds from just about every platform. So it's nice when you go to car shows, there is a nice array of builds. So there's Clean Culture that comes out here, Elite Tuner comes out here. We have local ones like Gearhead Society that puts on shows. I heard that there is Subie Wars Arizona starting up in Prescott. That's starting next month and the end of March. I like to take a step back whenever I am stressed out in life and stuff, and know that there is something I can put my attention towards, and in a healthy way, if you will. And it was such a big part of my life growing up that I just don't want to, get rid of it. I hope to share this passion with my kids when they grow up, and I feel like this is a culture that is I don't want to say slowly dying, but I feel like there are less people that know how to change a tire or know how to change their oil or actually work on their car. So I don't want my kids to feel like they always have to take it to a dealership, for instance. It's nice to know that other people appreciate the work that you're doing and appreciate your vision. And it's slowly given me avenues to other things, such as meeting great people along the way, whether that be my sponsors, friends that I've made locally, or even friends that I've made online. Some people I've never even met in person, but that I've just interacted with through Instagram, and I can generally tell that they're great people. It's just a culture and community that I wish could continue to grow. Because like I said, in my area when I grew up, it wasn't really a thing. The most I had was an arcade game or like Initial D or Maximum Tune, and then there was movies or Need for Speed Underground 2, and that was it. And somehow I just told myself that I would own one of those vehicles at some point in my life. I just kept grinding, and next thing I knew, it went from NA vehicles to turboed vehicles to all-wheel drive turbo vehicles. And I haven't looked back. You know, it's something that I feel like fits my personality. You know, so I didn't really come from the richest family or anything like that, and there are times that people told me that, you know, I shouldn't be investing into such expensive vehicles and stuff. And, you know, you only get one life. You're only here for a short period of time, and I feel like you should enjoy whatever you decide you want to do. And like I said before, there are going to be people in your corner rooting for you, and there are always going to be people outside your corner. You need to do it for yourself, whatever that is, but you also have to be realistic. You know, if you don't have the means, then sometimes you have to take a step back. You know, there may be some road bumps, but doesn't mean that it's the end of the road. So there have been some road bumps in my life, but I was able to come back on top, so I'm pretty happy about that. If there's anything I want to say, you know, I want to say thank you to everyone that has supported my build, that continues to support my build, whether that be my followers on Instagram, the sponsors, or even all the friends that I've made along the way. Them asking me to help them, or them asking me to aid them with their content, or to go to shoots for them. You know, I appreciate all those invites, knowing that I'm able to see their journey and how they can potentially be successful. And hopefully I look back and say, you know, this car is more than just a car. It's been an outlet to help me meet other people, help other people, and help myself, you know, and it's not possible with just one person. So I do acknowledge that.